Hello, today I am going to share with you 3 different tips and tricks for converting normal PDF resources that you might own into things that your students can use virtually for online learning. Right, so this could be like Google Classroom, Google Slides, stuff like that, or whatever platform your school uses. I happen to be a Google school, so I'm going to show you on Google Slides and Google Classroom, but just know that you can adapt these same tricks to whatever platform that you have. So the first thing that you need, honestly, is just a PDF of a resource that you want to use. So I'm just going to download one from my store. So I'm downloading my Solving Systems of Equations by Substitution flowchart. So this is a really nice resource because you can use it in a couple of different ways. So I'm going to open it up and show you what's inside of it, just for starters. So you have a cover page, you have the full-size flowchart, you have smaller ones if you were going to use it for like printing out for interactive notebooks or even exit tickets. Then you have printing help, thank you, credits, all that good stuff. Now, you really don't want your students to have to scroll through like multiple pages of junk if you only want them to have this one page, right? So realistically, if I'm posting this online for my students to access, I want the full page version so it's nice and easy for them to use. Now, there's a couple different ways though that teachers like to use these online. So one option is just an online reference. Like they don't plan on having their students interact with it virtually on their computer, other than just having it as something that they can pull up, use as a reference sheet to jog their memory, and then they just do all their work on their own paper like normal. Other teachers might want to have it as something that they can interact with and actually show all of their work and do this as like an assignment, right? So it's just kind of different options. So I'll show you how to do both. And then the third thing that I'm going to show you is how you can do some virtual exit tickets online and truly make it meaningful for you and your students. All right, so the first thing, let's say that you just want to cut through all the junk and get this one page, right? You don't want the other 7 pages that are in here. You just want the big one. So what you're going to do is click print. And I've already changed the destination on here because I've actually tried filming this video 3 times before and it hasn't gone so well, hasn't been saving, so fingers crossed. But normally when I print stuff, like this is the printer that I have at home. So this is what stuff prints as. And you can do this anywhere. Like if you're at work, wherever you're trying to use this file from, any computer will do this. So change your destination to one of them that says PDF. I just like save as PDF, but you could do Microsoft Print to PDF as well. But right now, this is just going to give me all the pages still, which is not what I want. I only want page 2, right? This is the only thing that I want. Just to show you, maybe it was a different resource and you wanted multiple pages. Let's say I wanted pages 2 and then also pages 5 through 7. The way that you would write it is 2, comma, and then 5-7. And then you'd have that set of pages as well. Right, so you can do it and cherry pick exactly the pages that you want. But I just want page 2, so I deleted the others, and this is the only thing that I'm going to get. So I'll click Save. And I'm just going to call it Substitution Flowchart. All right. So if I go to Google Classroom, you'll notice that there are different tabs at the top. The stream I like to reserve just for posting announcements and reminders. Anything that you want your students to really be accessing, I think you should post under the classwork tab. So reasons for that: one, you can create different types of categories and it really nicely organizes it. So it's much easier to go back and find something under the classwork tab than it is under the stream. And then secondly, if you at the end of the year archive a class and want to reuse it for the next year, anything under classwork can be reused, where stuff under stream is just kind of lost. So I'm going to click create. Here's my rule of thumb. If it's something that you want your students to be interacting with virtually, right, electronically, online, make it an assignment. If it's just something that you want them to be able to access and view, make it a material. So right now I am treating this flowchart as a reference sheet. So substitution flowchart reference sheet. And description, write it or not, I can just say use this to jog your memory if you forget how to solve with substitution. Okay, now I'm going to add the PDF. So it's a file on my computer. I'm going to select a file from my device from downloads, and I called it substitution flowchart. Upload it. All right, so I could assign it to specific students if I wanted, but I don't have a need to do that. I am going to create a topic though, since I don't have any. This is a fresh Google Classroom. I'm going to call this Solving Systems of Equations post. So now you'll see there's a nice header that says Solving Systems of Equations, and underneath it is a link to my substitution flowchart reference sheet. If students click it, all that they see is this one page. There's nothing else. All the junk is gone. Right? They can zoom in if they want. They can do whatever they need, but it's good to go. All right, now what I'm going to show you is, let's say that instead you actually wanted your students to interact with it and you wanted them to be doing problems on there. So instead, I discovered this website like 5 years ago. I knew that I needed to take my PDF and turn it into a picture. So I Googled how to do that. And I came across the website pdf2jpeg.net. Now, if you own the fancy version of Adobe, you should know how to do this part already, right? And it's more than capable, but most people don't spend the extra couple $100 to own that Adobe software, right? If you're just rolling with the free one, like, it's not going to be good enough to export it as an image, which is why PDF to JPEG is fantastic. So the first thing I like to do is change the quality to excellent. So this will be 300 DPI, which makes sure that you're getting a really high quality image when you convert it. And so let's say that I didn't do that first step where I isolated the one page. I'm just going to go like the whole huge document. So I selected my file, made sure it's changed to excellent. Now I'm going to click convert. So this is going to convert all 8 pages. But keep in mind, I don't care about most of them. The only one that we really need is the stuff on page 2. So I'm going to click download. So right now, I'm going to move this over so you can see I have my systems of equation, flowchart, JPEG, and this is just page 2. So we're going to go to Google Slides and create a blank one. I actually do want it blank, so you want to get rid of the whole click to add title, click to add subtitle. You can do that a couple ways. One option is under layout and then select blank. Or if you don't like doing that, you can just click all of them and then delete it. Who cares? All right, so if you look at this, the shape of the slide does not match the shape of the page that you want your students to do. Right now, a Google slide, it automatically defaults to a 16:9 aspect ratio. That's a pretty standard widescreen look. It's like if you're watching YouTube videos, that's the shape that they're going to be in. So what you're going to do is go File, and it's pretty low down, but keep looking until you find Page Setup. And again, it's set on widescreen to begin with. Change it to custom. Our page is 8.5 by 11. It's a normal sheet of paper. That's how PDFs go. So I've changed it to 8.5 by 11. And what I'm going to do now is insert that image as the background. Now, please make sure you don't do what you're probably inclined to do, which is insert image. The reason you don't want to do that is then the image is just loose and movable in the slide, and it's really easy for your students to accidentally delete it, move it really far off, just do weird things. From my experience, like I've definitely lived and learned from making my fair share of digital activities and digital resources for students to use in my classroom, them accidentally deleting it is a high probability. So to prevent that from even being an option, you're going to make your image background. That way it's like literally locked in. They can't touch it. They can't do anything to it. So you're going to click choose image. I can either drag it up or browse from my computer. Kind of up to you. Doesn't matter how you do it. So I have it in my downloads. Right, here it is. Here's my image. All right, and then I can click done. And you'll notice I have this really nice full page. That's my flowchart. So I'm going to click zoom in. Whoops, I clicked zoom out, my bad. So let's do that one more time. Zoom in. All right. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is add a text box. So I'm going to create this as something for my students to actually fill out. So I'm going to make it the width of the box. It doesn't have to be perfect. I like it to be centered, but you do you. All right, so then I can start typing. Let's see. I want y to be equal to x plus 5. And then my second equation to be x plus y equals, I don't know, 8. So you can go ahead and then have your students start going through the process. Now, think about what you're going to want them to do. So the first thing that I ask them to do, is there a variable that's isolated? Yes or no? So what I like to do is insert a shape, and I'm going to insert a circle shape. And I'm going to try and match the same oval shape that I put here. Doesn't really have to be perfect, but I like it to be kind of close. All right, so I have this oval. You can change the fill to be whatever you want. I like it to be kind of bright and highlightery. But here, if you notice, if I just put it on top, you can't see it, so that's kind of underwhelming. So go back to your fill and click custom, and there should be a transparency option. So I'm going to turn it down quite a ways. That way, when your student decides to drag it over, right, it can show them what they've selected. If you want to be really fancy, you can turn the outline off as well, but I don't think that matters so much. So you can have this off on the side, you can have it in the center, wherever you want, but the idea is for them to be able to drag it to the yes or to the no. So if we were doing this one, is there a variable isolated? Yeah, on the top line, y is isolated, so they'd be good to go. All right, so the next thing that they're going to be asked to do is either go to this step 2 box or to isolate a variable. So I'm going to insert some text boxes. That way it's good to go for them. So I'm going to say delete this text and write for work here. Right, that way students know exactly what they need to do. They can click here, even click here. It gives them easy access, and then they can start typing whatever they need to. Instead of having to type that a bunch, just Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste is what I'm saying, and make boxes for the other spaces. And then you can readjust the dimensions to fit nicely for whatever you're making. Right? And so the really cool part about this, once you're done doing this, you can duplicate the slide and have your students do this for several different problems. And all that you have to change as the teacher, of course, before assigning it to them, is just whatever problem you want to be doing up top. All right, so I've done all of these where they're actually showing work. Now the last thing is for them to write their solution. So I'm going to take a text box and I'm going to write X. And I really don't need it to be this ginormous, to just be one coordinate. So I'm going to change the size, the dimensions of it quite a bit. And then once I have it how I like it, I'm going to write X there. You can even make it skinnier if you want, right? Keep fiddling it till it's how you like it. Control-C, Control-V. Then I'm going to put another one right next to it. And I'm going to call it Y. That way your students can, of course, once they've gone through, they've done all their work, they can write what they need to right there. So this could be for just one problem, or if you want more, click on the slide, and then you can either right-click it and find duplicate, or I just click on the slide and do Control-D, and it makes another one come up. Now, everything on here is exactly the same, so all I have to change are my equations. So maybe I want it to say 2x take away y equals 10, and then x equals negative y plus 3. Right? I don't know if these actually turn out very nice, but this is just an example of showing what you, the teacher, can do. If I was doing this, I might just put a substitution. Right? And then you'll have a whole bunch of problems that you can pull from and give to your students, right? So another thing that I want to show you, real cool trick, let's say that I want all of this and I don't want to have to remember it. I can go down to the search on my computer. I'm going to type in SNP. This is what's built into my Windows computer, but if you have a different type of computer, use whatever screenshot tool that's built in. I'm going to click New. I'm just going to grab this right here. And then I can go Control V and it pastes right in. So maybe this is what I wanted them to do instead. Just boom, now I have an image, right? And maybe I don't want to get rid of that one. I just want it to be new problem. So I click the slide, Control D. Now I have a third one and I can get rid of this, post the image instead. Right, so I can give them some really quick ways to do some problems. So I have 3 of them done right now. So I'm going to call this Systems by Substitution Problems. All right. So this is something that I clearly want my students to be interacting with, right? I want them to be doing work on this. So to give it to them, what I'm going to do on Google Classroom is go to the Create button. And again, if you want your students to be interacting with it, click Assignment. If you want them to just be able to view it and not do anything online, like not change anything online, click Material. I want them to do stuff, so Assignment. I'm going to call this Substitution Problems. Sorry. Typing and talking is hard. And you can even put 3 behind it if you want to tell them. All right, so for instructions, once you look at step 1, drag and drop the yellow oval to your yes, no decision. Show all work by typing in the provided text boxes. Cool. Now I need to actually provide the slideshow for them to do. So I'm going to click Add. Now this time I made it on Google Drive, so click that option. And it should be the most recent thing there. So boom, click it. Now this is the most important part, and this is where teachers go wrong. So you've already made it an assignment, which is important. If you don't click assignment, you're not going to have these options. So under assignment, you're going to change where it says students can view file. No. You want it to say make a copy for each student. So what this is going to do, it's literally going to make one copy of this Google slide for each of your students. It's automatically going to have their name on it, which is super handy. And then you don't have to worry about like 30 students editing the exact same Google slideshow all at the same time on accident. Like I've done that before. I've accidentally assigned it the wrong way and they literally were all doing their work on the same presentation. They enjoyed it a lot more than I had intended them to. So make a copy for each student. Over here, you can change how many points you want it. Maybe I think they're doing 3 problems, 3 points per problem to make it 9 points in total. You could make it ungraded if you wanted. You could provide a due date. You could keep it open-ended. For organization, I would recommend always use a topic. So I don't need to create a topic because when I posted the flow chart just as a reference sheet, I created a topic called Systems of Equations or Solving Systems of Equations. So now I can click Assign. And eventually it will load and you can see, okay, here it is. So I don't have any students in this classroom because it's just an example class, but I can see that nobody's done it. And over here, it'll tell you how many students have yet to do it. So when they're done, it'll all turn in here for you to see. You can see all of their work. And you can go through, provide feedback. You can put comments on it. It's really great for you to be able to see their work, provide feedback, and then actually return it. A lot of online grading management systems also can integrate with Google Classroom, so it automatically exports there. So there's just some really great things. Now, the next thing that I wanted to show you, and this is the last thing, is how to do virtual exit tickets. That's also really meaningful. So on my TPT store, I have this resource. It's 5 math exit slip templates. So I'm going to download the file. And I'll open it up just to show you what's in there. Now, this one's got 15 pages. And again, I don't really want to give all 15 pages to my students at once. So an exit slip's really something that they should be interacting with, but they don't need the cover. They don't need all of the teacher instruction pages. And then even more so, once I get to my exit slips, do you notice that they're printed in this example 4 to a page or 2 to a page, right? And I don't really need my students to have to look at 2 of them at the same time. So here's my final trick. When you are taking an entire page, like we did with the flowchart, use this wonderful PDF to JPEG option. If you're not doing so and you just want half of a page, a quarter of a page, a specific region, use the snipping tool like I did off of this random CUDA worksheet that I opened up. So again, to get the snipping tool, right, you can probably just Google how to take a screenshot on your computer, but if you have a Windows computer, go to the search icon and just type in snip, and it should bring up the snipping tool. So before you actually get one, what I always like to do is zoom in as much as you can where it still shows everything, because the more zoomed in you are, the crisper the screenshot will look. So then you get your snipping tool, you click new, and you're going to just drag it over everything that you want it to take a screenshot of. So I'm going to just take the half sheet, and then you'll do File, Save As, and I'm going to call this What Went Wrong. All right. I can click X because I saved it. So I'm going to go back to Google Slides. I'll open up a new one. Can get rid of the stuff we don't care about. Now, right now, I just want to point out, every time you open up a new Google slide, it will start with the same 16:9 widescreen ratio, which again is like what you use on a YouTube video. Or if you're just looking at a slideshow normally, but that's not the dimension of the exit slip, right? We took a half sheet of paper. It's not going to be quite the same. Now, let's say that you don't really care too much, like you're not that fussy. I'm not that fussy most of the time, in all honesty, like my students can deal. I'm going to show you what happens if you just do a half sheet as the default 16:9 ratio. So this slide is going to be a little bit wider than the actual paper was. So if you look, it's ever so slightly distorted horizontally, like the image is stretched a little bit. It doesn't look awful, but it might bother you. So I'm going to click undo, and I'll show you how to make it like as perfect as you can if that's what you want, and then I'll get back into like, how do you do this as an exit ticket? So I will do File, scroll down to Page Setup, just like we did before. We're going to change it to Custom. Now, instead of doing 8.5 by 11, this half sheet is 8.5 by, it's only half tall. So instead of being 11, half of 11 is 5.5. So change your dimensions. And then again, don't insert your picture, make it the background. It makes a really big difference to your students on their like user experience, because again, they can't accidentally delete it. All right, so now that we have this, hopefully you can see it looks much less distorted and it actually looks the way that you want it to. So we're going to quickly add some text boxes. That way your students can do their work. So you can write whatever instructions you want, something like click here and delete text, show, type your work here. Something like that. And so then you can copy and paste it to make text boxes for all the other ones. Nice thing about Google Slides is it has those red lines to help you line everything up so you don't have to think too hard about it. All right. Now you're probably wondering, like, how are your students going to know what to do? So what I like to do once I have my exit slip set up, I'm going to click enter and I can drag it up to be the first sheet. So here's the problem. All right, I'm going to make up a problem. I'm going to use my name as the name in the example just because. So Audrey is trying to calculate the slope between, all right, -1, 2 and 3, 5. How about that? Here's her work. Right, so what went wrong? Maybe I don't want it to call it that. Okay, so here's her work. So I'm going to say that m equals 2. I'm going to do 5 take away 2 divided by 3 take away 1. Now, hopefully you would have noticed that this should have been a plus, right? That's a goof. I'm doing it intentionally, right? I'm making a mistake so my students can go through and analyze it. So then I can do m equals, if I look at it, 5 take away 2 is 3, divided by 3 take away 1 is 2. All right, so that would be my work. Now, my students would want to go through and say something to the effect of, like, identify and explain what went wrong. Oh, well, when she did 3 take away -1, she forgot that subtracting a negative should really become a positive. So down here, they could rework it. It'd be really nice because they could just copy and paste, right? And then they could adjust it. Then over here, they'd have a helpful strategy like, don't forget, when you're doing negative numbers, go slow, maybe put parentheses around them. Don't forget that minus minus turns negative. Be particularly cautious around negative numbers. And then up here, they could create their own practice problem that would likely include negative numbers for the student to have to practice with, since that was clearly tricky for them. So again, I just came up with a super short example. If I was doing this for real, I'd probably put a little bit more thought into what I was providing to my students, right? But hopefully this gives you an idea. So at this point, I'm going to call this slope exit ticket. All right. So going to classwork, I'm going to click under the classwork tab, right, on Google Classroom, create. If you want your students to be doing something to it, make it an assignment. If you just want them to be able to view it and not make changes, make it a material. I want them to type on here, so I'm making it an assignment. So I'm going to call this slope exit ticket. All right. If you want, you can provide instructions. So you can type whatever you want there. So add. I don't have to find it as a file on my computer because I made it on Google Slides. So click Google Drive. It should be right here as my most recent thing. And this is the important part. Don't forget to change. Students can view file into, make a copy for each student. Make sure that you change that. Now, since this is an exit ticket, maybe I don't want to grade it, right? Maybe it's ungraded. right? Or maybe I just want it to be 2 points, right? Something small. You could change the due date to whatever you want. Right? So you have options. And then topic, again, I always like to make sure that it's sorted under something like unit topics is typically what I do. So I would call this slope. I can assign it. And each of my students are going to be able to have their own copy of this that they can then go through, type over, and then they can submit it to me. I can view it, I can provide feedback if necessary, or I can quickly just sort through all of them and get a general vibe about how my students are doing. So, just to quickly recap the tips and tricks that I have shown you, if you would like to just make a reference sheet with selected pages that your students can view, but they don't need to interact with, you'll post it as a material, and you can use the print to PDF feature to isolate just the pages that you want to give them. Now, if you want them to interact with it, if it's an entire page, use that PDF to JPEG website. It's fantastic, and then you can upload it as a Google slide, right? And then just don't forget when you post it as an assignment to change it to make a copy for each student. Lastly, if you're doing something that you want your students to interact with, but originally it was not an entire sheet of paper, use whatever built-in screenshot feature is inside your computer. So for me, the snipping tool, and then save that as an image that you then insert as the background on a Google slide, and then post it as an assignment so students can interact. And don't forget to change to where you make a copy for each student. Now, if when you screenshot on your computer, it doesn't let you do that nice little drag and drop like I did, no biggie. All you're going to do is have like an image of your entire screen to begin with, and then just crop it down to just what you want, and then save it. And then from there, you can post it to Google Slides, right? So it might work a little bit different based off of the computer that you have. But these tips and tricks have gotten me a really long ways in turning my normal printed resources into things that really work electronically for my students. So hopefully you've learned some great tips from watching this video. Bye.